So PPI inflation data came a little bit hot, and the Fed has started to change their language. Wholesale prices rose 0.7% in January, more than expected, fueling inflation increase. U.S. producer prices exceed forecast in biggest gain since June. And I want to show you guys a chart here. You guys can see this for yourself. We're getting a little bit of uptick in inflation. This is the PPI read for January. And it's hard to control for inflation, right? One thing is also, too, the consumer has a little bit more money. This is part of sort of the cycle, why it's hard to control. So essentially, companies say, hey, workers, come to work. Workers are like, hey, have you seen the rents? This is horrible. Have you seen, price of houses? This is crazy. Have you seen the price of eggs, right? Pay me more money. Our companies then pay workers more money. And then what they do, then they pass the costs on to consumers. And the cycle just keeps going. It's a doom loop, essentially. It's interesting. So what you're looking at, what's hard to control for inflation, you're looking at, employee wage gains. You're also looking at cost of living adjustments. So this is like Social Security, those kind of things. And something I didn't necessarily know, which is something that this article pointed out, was that states are cutting taxes. So yes, there's more money in consumer pockets in terms of paying people more money and giving people more money. However, as it turns out, if you look at Americans as a whole, you can read the headlines. Amid persistent inflation, 54% of Americans are using savings to pay for everyday expenses. So that means, slightly over half of Americans are really struggling, because if you have to use your savings to pay for your everyday living expenses, meaning that one of these days your savings is going to run out, or theoretically, just to be fair, prices will come down enough to where you can, get it to work. My guess, though, is that prices just aren't coming down as fast enough for people to really be on the saving end. And this is sort of the bet. Can American savings last long enough to keep paying for their daily expenses? If in fact, say people get laid off or their savings just run out, it could be really, really tough times ahead. So this is sort of why I've been talking about, maintaining your career and these kind of things going through the times that we're going through right now. In terms of what the Fed is actually saying, we can just read the headlines here together. Fed hawks see possible cases for returning to larger rate hikes. Now, remember, we've been talking about this the last couple of weeks, where the projections have been, the Fed is going to do a couple 25 basis point rate hikes, right? So 0.25%, maybe anywhere from 2 to 4 of these things. However, now when they're publicly saying, this is 2 of them, not just one, saying they're looking at 50 basis point rate hike, that was certainly a shock to the market. And that's sort of why you saw kind of a crazy dump at the end of the day today. Let's read some more details here. Mester said, this is one of the Fed people, Mester said incoming data have not changed her view that officials will need to bring the Fed's fund rate above 5% and hold it there for some time, right? They keep saying the same thing in Oregon. We're going to raise it and keep it there for a while. Setting aside what financial market participants expected us to do, I saw a compelling economic case for a 50 basis point increase. So they're talking about increasing. Let's see what else they say here. Quote, this is from Bullard now. Continued policy rate increases can help lock in a disinflationary trend during 2023, even with ongoing growth and strong labor markets, by keeping inflation expectations low, right? And then moreover, it's not always going to be, 25, she said. This is now back over to Mester. As we showed, when the economy calls for it, we can move faster and we can do bigger at any particular meeting. And it's going to be driven by how the economy is evolving. The markets were very, very optimistic, thinking, they're just going to do a few more rate hikes and maybe be cutting them by the end of the year, which I always thought was a bit strange. I've told you guys all along. I'm just like, what are, markets talking about? I mean, the Fed has never indicated that. And in fact, now they're getting kind of mad. It's saying like, yo, you better listen to us. We're really serious. We're going to raise it even more than you guys think. So that's what's going on with that. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that one. If you expected the Fed to come out a little bit more hawkish and start signaling the 50 basis point rate hikes. Now, remember, we've been talking about the UFO / Chinese spy balloon thing over the weekend. It turns out, and this is just my honest opinion, we look like a bunch of idiots. So I'll tell you why. We'll go through it here. So here's the headline. Biden says unidentified flying object not linked to Chinese spy activity. So the president came out and said, okay, the other ones were not Chinese. More of the details here. The president said intelligence officials didn't believe the 3 objects were connected to the Chinese spy balloon program. Okay, not Chinese. And here's a quote. Nothing right now suggests they're related to the China spy balloon program, or that they were surveillance vehicles from any other country, right? So they're saying we don't think these balloons are, say Russia, North Korea, whoever the country would be spying on us. And then moreover, they say, or he says, Biden, this is, the intelligence community's current assessment at that these three objects were most likely balloons tied to private companies, recreation, or research institutions studying weather or conducting other scientific research. Now, what I find odd about this whole thing, so let's just say maybe they're not Chinese. Okay, that's fine. Let's say they're not other countries. Okay, fine. If they are indeed like a private company or someone's science project, it's really, really weird that someone hasn't come out and claimed these things. Someone has mentioned in comments, maybe it's some sort of hoax, and the military and the government doesn't want to admit that they look like a bunch of fools, or theoretically they're just not telling the truth at all. I'm just laying it out there, guys. I honestly don't know, but I have to take it at face value. The president says it's not Chinese. They're going to go speak with China about it. Theoretically, maybe it is Chinese. They're lying to us. That's a possibility. I'm just laying it out there because these kind of things are extremely sensitive. They are shooting stuff down, and I just find the whole thing odd. I'll just leave it at that. I just find the whole thing odd. And my personal opinion is that we look pretty dumb. So yeah, you take that how you like. This was talking about dealing with China, though. This is something I want to mention because it is kind of a scary headline, especially if you're a wealthy person in China, because read this, guys. China Renaissance unable to reach its deal maker, Chairman Bao Fan, and basically it's one of their top money people over there, and China just has gone missing. And to put this in context, because I think people who've never been to China or don't follow this stuff closely, just imagine for example when Jack Ma disappeared. Just imagine for us it would have been what if Steve Jobs disappeared, and just imagine for example say they're saying this is Bao Fan disappears. Just imagine for us if Warren Buffett just disappears, right? It's odd. And it's usually, I don't know, I don't have any proof of anything, but I would say it's probably something to do with the government, and he said something that they didn't want him to say, or he's doing stuff they don't want him to do, and they just kind of put you on house arrest and make you disappear for a while. Beyond that, who knows? But this is, certainly the kind of news, like I was saying, this doesn't happen in USA. I mean, as much as, we talk about, popular CEOs and things like this, Elon Musk just doesn't disappear and no one can contact him. It's not like that, right? He's on Twitter all the time to make sure, I'm here. So this is something that is concerning. Also coming out today, the government, this is talking about the SEC of the U.S., I guess is officially charging Do Kwon, that's the Terra Luna dude, he's South Korean, with fraud. And the basic gist is, my understanding, I think he's hiding in Europe. Who knows where he is? If you know where he is, please let me know. And it's funny because I've always wondered, not always wondered, it's something I think about every day. But for him, I've always wondered, is he actually going to just disappear? Can a person do it? I mean, he's probably got billions of dollars, so this is sort of what we're going to find out. Now that I can tell you the Korean government's after him, and I think Interpol and stuff like that. And especially too, when you're in crypto and you're dealing with, dirty money and people are trying to launder money and any number of things. You take people's money, and I'm curious if he's going to be able to just disappear and never find him again. We'll see. For all we know, he pops up, someday, for example, a Saddam Hussein kind of thing, and he's bearded, and you don't recognize him at all. But we'll see. I think the last time I heard, I want to say it was Croatia or something like that. And then before, I think we were hearing rumors that he was in Singapore, but I had told you guys I don't think he's there. And then it turned out I think it was Netherlands or something. So who knows where he is? For all we know, he's in Switzerland. I mentioned Switzerland because they always pass laws of essentially if you give the banks money in Switzerland, they'll keep your money safe no matter who you are, no matter where the money comes from. So we'll see if they end up capturing Do Kwon. Bitcoin has been on a tear. You can read the headlines here. Bitcoin rises despite U.S. crackdown as crypto market gains $84 billion in value. Frankly, guys, I don't get it. I don't mess with this stuff. And when I see all of these risks that essentially your money can just disappear one day, it's not worth it to me. But I understand if some people want to do this, be my guest, but just understand what the risks are. Because sometimes people overstate things. And speaking of overstating things, the government, this is the FCC now, is looking at broadband companies. Essentially, the government wants broadband companies to, have high-speed internet in rural areas. And evidently, some of these companies, be it a T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T, these kind of companies, may have been overstating what their coverage has been. And essentially, the gist of it is that it's really expensive for them to put broadband in rural communities. There's just not enough people there to justify the cost. And, the problem is, though, is when you're taking money from the government or benefits from the government and not doing what you said you're doing. So we'll see what turns out with this one. And this is something that going forward, I do think is a real serious issue. I do want high-speed internet everywhere in the country. I'm talking about the U.S. here, because I can tell you here in Korea, it is ridiculously fast. You're probably looking at 10 times faster, this kind of thing. I'm just giving you ballpark, but I'm just saying it's really, really fast here, and 1/3 of the cost. So I know the USA is different than say something like a Korea, but I'm just saying cheap and fast internet is awesome. That's all I have to say about that. And talking about internet and so why we need fast internet. You guys know I'm on YouTube every day, and evidently the CEO of YouTube is stepping down. I think I looked it up. I think she's like 54 or something of that nature. So, I don't think it's anything like out of the ordinary. Just wants to go and do something else, and more power to her. And we'll see who, or actually we do know who they announced it. I can't remember the person's name. It's someone already within the community and the company, I should say. But it's definitely worth news. There's a story here that I haven't been following that closely, to be perfectly honest. And I'd love to hear people's opinion on this from the community that know more about this than myself. There was a train wreck in Ohio, and I guess this train had a bunch of chemicals on it, toxic chemicals. And I was looking at this. This looks terrible, actually, if you look at the picture here. And the local people are just concerned about, what was on this train and is the water safe and that kind of stuff. This one, to me, is similar to the spy balloon thing, is where I find it hard to trust the government. I'm being honest, like these kind of things. I remember the Flint, Michigan stuff. And I can understand just regular people, like, is it safe to drink the water? And it's hard to trust anything. And this is not just the U.S. government. Many governments, when it comes to these natural disasters, they basically want to keep people calm, essentially, right? So that means, they may not necessarily tell you everything. So I don't know. It's the same with the balloon thing. Who knows what's going on in this stuff, but it's hard to really trust. The report, and this is late, right? Because we're kind of mid-February now, but I guess this accident was on February 3rd, and this is the stuff I wanted to show you. So they're saying there are 5 main hazardous chemicals on this thing. So there was liquor and vegetables, and those aren't really hazardous, but then the hazardous chemicals, and for people who are in chemistry, please share what these things are. So it's ethylene glycol monobutyl ether, ethyl hexyl acrylate, isobutylene, and butyl acrylate, and vinyl chloride. And part of sort of what's going on is we're talking about the use of plastics and how that is for the environment / drinking water. So please share your thoughts on this one. And this is something that I'm a big proponent of on this channel. I've said it so many times. I'm all about clean energy, clean tech, and this was a very interesting article talking about how the U.S. is really trying to make moves in that. As we know, we talk about this on the channel. And they gave some really cool charts of like sort of seeing the trajectory, say, the next 10 years or so. Basically, money going into the alternative energy is going to be going up. That's not hard to see. The U.S. is actually behind a bit compared to other countries in terms of the how they say this. They say U.S. lags behind rivals in renewable electricity generation. So evidently, Brazil, Canada, Germany, they do a whole bunch of renewable energy. I just was unaware. So I know we have a lot of people who watch this channel who are in Canada. We have some in Germany. We also have some in Brazil. So if you guys have any thoughts on that, please share. I'd love to hear about these things. I didn't know about Brazil. The only thing I know about Brazil is they're unstable right now, and we're concerned about, like, for example, burning down the forest. So I didn't know necessarily they were, maybe, building a bunch of wind farms and stuff like that. I just don't know enough about it. I'd love to hear some thoughts on that. Canada, though, I could see investing in that because I know they have a lot of wide open space where they certainly have the land for it. And if you are, young person, and I mentioned many times on this channel, and looking for a job and a career to pursue, I think alternative energy would be a fabulous thing. And there's all kinds of jobs in that, right? If you want to just get, for example, like a tech job, installing, be it panels or, fixing these kind of equipments and things like that, I think there's going to be a lot of need for that. And evidently, I'm not just making random stuff up. You can read the headline here. U.S. will need 546,000 more workers to meet construction demand in 2023. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity in this field for any number of positions for people who are in this stuff. And I think that it goes for, say, electric vehicles as well, say, fixing those cars and stuff like that. So this has been your daily news. I'd love everyone always join us every day, and I'll catch you guys next time.